Good afternoon, world, or good morning, or good night, whatever time of the day this is when you listening to this. This is NT Sports Blitz Podcast. This is our second episode. I am the fat boy. You might hear him call me Neef. People call me Flesh Man, but I'm focused today, so I'm ready. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? This is G. Perry coming to you live with Neef, episode 2 of the NT Sports Blitz. We're excited to get in and talk to you today about some hot topics. A lot of great stuff happened over the last week. Some good things and some bad things, but we're ready to get in the mix and kick things off with an exciting show.
Hold on. Before we go, I want to wish you an early Happy Father's Day. It's important that we do that, show that brotherly love to the fathers out here. We're not going to record again until after. So I want to wish you and all the other fathers out there, the good fathers, Happy Father's Day.
Absolutely. Definitely appreciate the love, Neve. Happy Father's Day to you as well. And all our listeners out there that are fathers, happy early Father's Day to you as well. I hope you get to be celebrated and enjoy your day. So we're going to kick it off. Topic number 1, the NBA. The NBA has some interesting things that's going on. On episode 1, we discussed the NBA returning on July 31st, and then you spend it a week later, and there's been some controversy because some NBA players are resistant to coming back and starting that season back up. You have Kyrie Irving, who's been leading the charge with some hesitation about the NBA season restarting. You also had Dwight Howard that made a comment in an interview with CNN. Avery Bradley also gave some resistance as well, and also George Hill from the Milwaukee Bucks. If I remember it correctly, George Hill stated that basketball is the farthest thing from his mind. So what are your thoughts on that topic, Neef? How are you feeling about those things?
First, I want to get with Kyrie real quick, man. So you got to give me a little second, man. Kyrie Irving. First off, I don't trust no man who walk around and don't get no shape up with a haircut, man. So me and him have an issue as far as that. I don't trust him. Secondly, it's like you have an obsession with LeBron. You're like that girlfriend who you broke up and you left, but you still got a lot of animosity because you broke up and you left and you went to Boston. And then in Boston, after dealing with younger guys than you say, oh, I understand what Bron was talking about. And then you was ready to play with Bron again. It's like you have an obsession with LeBron. And then your team not even really – then you're not coming back to actually play. So for you to say, oh, I don't think we should play, you wasn't playing from the get-go. So you the homie who – all the homies going out, right? And he going to say, I don't think we should go out tonight because your wife won't let you out. He's that guy. So for me, it's like – and then I've never really seen Kyrie – and I might be wrong, G, and let me know if I'm wrong. I've never seen him step up before. So for me, it's like, where's this coming from? Your team is not a team that's really in contention to win. Would you feel the same way if you and KD were both healthy and y'all were a 1 seed going into this situation? Would you feel that same way, that same energy? I can respect the Dwight. I can respect the
Avery Bradley, George Hill.
Those guys are on teams that are number 1 seeds, and I don't even think they got championships. So I think it comes from a more sincere place. But I don't trust Kyrie, though, so.
Got you. So Kyrie's feet are being held to the fire for sins of his past. I do know in the past Kyrie Irving tried to be involved with things outside of basketball. He tried to present like his philosophies on other things in life, and it really didn't work out well for him. A lot of people feel a lot of different ways about Kyrie Irving. They talk about his mental health, his temperament, him being standoffish with teammates and things of that nature. So he tried to branch outside of basketball and show a side of him in regards to activism, but it hasn't been a smooth process for him, unfortunately. So I understand where you're coming from with Kyrie, but let's look at the bigger picture of things because it's two sides to this coin.
Right.
Some players want to get back and play because they love the game. Dame Lillard was just on the other night being interviewed by Mike Greenberg, and they also had Adam Silver on. He basically did kind of like a town hall meeting. So a lot of players that love the game, they want to get back to playing basketball because that's what they love to do. Also, like Dame Lillard mentioned, they're the ones that takes care of their family and their community because they get paid a lot of money. So if they're not playing, that limits their ability to be able to support their community, do things financially that are necessities and things of that nature. But the human side, players seen people protesting, and some of the players got out there, and I want to commend them for stepping up and doing that. I know Tobias Harris here in Philly, he got out and protested with protesters. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson were out in California protesting. I believe Russell Westbrook was out somewhere protesting as well, and many other players who names I can't mention right now. But when you see your people being murdered innocently, you see them being discriminated against and things of that nature, that's going to touch your heart. So it's a two-sided coin. So the athlete in them, they want to play ball, but the humanness in them, they want to stand up with the people as well. What do you think about that aspect of it, Neef?
What I heard and what I kind of agree with is the fact that when you play, I think that puts so if Dame goes out and he hits a game winner, 35 points, they put a microphone in front of you. They put a bunch of microphones in front of you. And that's an opportunity where right now when you're sitting at home, nobody's checking for Dame like they will be checking for Dame if the playoff was going on. So that gives him an opportunity, or those athletes opportunity, to support the movement as far, the social injustice and speak on those things. Mm-hmm. I think that gives an opportunity. What I also heard was like people saying, bringing sports back is going to take away from the Black
Lives Matter movement.
I believe that if there's something that truly means something to you, that doesn't stop that. If basketball coming back takes away from you, if you were going to protest and now you don't want to protest because the game's coming on, that means the protest wasn't as important to you as you made it seem. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, end of the day, it's people who, are going to not watch, the news or participate in things as much as they do now with sports back, but there are people that will. You know what I'm saying? So, if you say don't bring the NBA back now, when do you bring sports back? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, this is not a 1 day, 2 day, a 5-month process. This social injustice and dealing with this is going to be something that's going to take some time, and it's going to be a while. I feel like it's not an overnight situation.
It's not going anywhere. It's not going away. A lot of people have been oblivious to the reality of life for Black people as a whole, and now they're starting to get their heads pulled out the sand, and they're seeing what things are really hitting for. So that's going to bring me to our next subject matter, which is college football players have been stepping up big time and holding coaches accountable. There's been a lot of different instances. You've had Oklahoma State, where you had their best player, Chuba Hubbard, who was the leading rusher in college football last year. He ran for over 2,000 yards. He stepped up and he held his coach accountable because his coach went fishing and he wore a right-wing T-shirt from the OAN network, who downplays Black Lives Matter, talks badly about blacks and their Trump supporters. So Chuba Hubbard, he stepped up and he threatened to not participate in anything with the program and possibly leave the program. You have Clemson University, Trevor Lawrence, their quarterback. He's white. He stepped up to lead marches and protests against racial injustice and social inequality and things of that nature. Texas A&M University, they have a lot going on that's stirred up down there because they want statues removed from a general who led the Confederates in wars back in the past. You had Florida State University and some other universities as well. So what are your thoughts on that matters, Neef?
Hey, just real quick, what's the coach name? 'Cause I got to say his name. The one from the coach
Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State, yes.
Mike Gundy.
Mike Gundy. Why does Mike Gundy still have a job today is my first question. I don't want you to answer that right now, but I need that answer. Secondly, I seen his name Hubbard, right? Hubbard.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard come back and say that he felt like he should have went to the coach first, which I understand as a man. I don't think it's always good to go run on social media and say something. If you have an issue, you should address him man to man before you take it to the internet. And I respect his apology or his coming back and addressing that days later. A lot of people were trying to grind him up for that. And I respect where he come from as far as that. My whole thing is the universities are going to have to make a decision. I think this is going to affect a lot of their recruitment. First of all, from what I hear, Oklahoma State don't do that well, especially with Oklahoma and
recruiting.
And right. So end of the day, hold on, I'm gonna get to that too. But what bothers me the most is a racist. If you're gonna be racist all the way. Don't recruit black players. I think it's even worse when you're racist like that, or you Black Lives Don't Matter, but then you have no issue using black athletes to build your career to make money off of. If you feel strongly about your racism and feel like whites are superior, if that's the space you in, then don't recruit black players. I don't see how you recruit black players, but then Black Lives Don't Matter. I think that's worse than I respect a straight up KKK racist more than I respect that guy, because that guy is using black people, but on the low, on the DL, really has a situation.
Well, I want to elaborate on what you mentioned about Chuba Hubbard, about the man-to-man with his coach. Have you ever heard of the Black 14?
Nah.
There's a documentary that's running on ESPN currently. The Black 14 are 14 black college football players from back in the day. They played for Wyoming University. Wyoming was a really good football program in the 60s. They won big bowl games. They had an excellent team. They were competing for national titles. And in 1969, they started the season off 4-0. And they play in the same conference as BYU. So BYU, Brigham Young University, they're in the state of Utah. But BYU had some issues with racism as well. And this is 1969 that we're talking about. So the previous season, they played BYU. They were being called racist names. They had gorillas hanging next to black people, just, ignorant racist tactics that we've heard of throughout time. So the players decided that they wanted to protest. And it wasn't a violent protest. It was peaceful protests. They all wanted to wear a black armband when they were playing BYU. They collectively went to go talk to their coach to ask permission to do it.
Right.
And the coach kicked them off the football team. He sent somebody else and said he don't want to waste their time. The coach didn't even take the meeting. He ended up kicking all 14 black players off of the football team because they wanted to peacefully protest against a racist university they were getting ready to play. So when you're mentioning about Chuba Hubbard going and having a man-to-man with the coach, that's a slippery slope. Right. Because if a person is not open-minded and they're not about equality, they're not about all people being treated the same, the coach is in a position of power. He can do stuff with taking away scholarships and things of that nature. So we live in a different day and age now where we have access to technology. We have the internet, which gives you instant access to the whole entire world. I don't see anything wrong with what Chuba Hubbard did. I think he did it the right way because he got more people involved in that particular matter. Had he did it one-on-one, the coach might have tried to flex his power on him.
Right.
He might have some leverage over. He might have tried to do some blackmail type stuff. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, I definitely think going into recruiting black young players, these colleges that we talking about with these issues should be crossed off your list. You a 5-star African-American player, you shouldn't go there.
Right.
I mean, I think that's how you hit them. That's how you hurt them for real. Y'all want to keep these guys around. Y'all want to keep these things going on. We're not coming to play there. It's period. And then we'll see. Do you want to? Because I've even heard things where as though with Oklahoma State, whereas though they might not want to pay. The payout might be too much for them to
get rid of the coach.
Now. Right. Okay. Well, in the long run, when you don't get the kind of players y'all want, and y'all really, because y'all not that good anyway, and his record not that good anyway. And I heard that back in the day, he was a quarterback that broke all the records at their school and all that. Okay, y'all want to save him and keep him around? Cool. Let's see how much money y'all make when don't nobody want to come there.
Right.
So hit them in their pockets where it hurt.
Right. So some other players that stepped up at the University of Iowa. Chris Doyle was their strength and conditioning coach since 1999. And he arguably was one of the 3 best strength and conditioning coaches in the entire country. Right. He definitely was the highest paid. He was making $800,000 a year. But because of all these things going on in the world and a lot of people, basically that field has been fired from George Floyd being murdered innocently on camera by police. Breonna Taylor being murdered innocently by the police. No knock warrant. You're running to somebody's house and shooting them up. They don't know who's coming in their house. Aubrey down in Georgia getting murdered, and Mike Brown in Missouri. You had a long-standing issue with unjust murders by police, but just the treatment of Black people as a whole. So the University of Iowa, they have past players that have spoken up about being treated unfair by Chris Doyle, about him making racial jokes and comments and turning his hat to the side and putting on his homeboy type persona, but it was in mockery of Black players. So now, because so many other people are stepping up, it's given other college football players courage to do the same. And what's really happening is accountability is taking place like I've never seen before, because people are getting outed left and right. I've seen people being racist and they get outed on the internet. And now people are going and tracking them down to see where they are, where they work, and they're making that information be known to their jobs, and people are getting fired behind it. And I'm glad to see that accountability is taking place. It's long overdue.
You see the guy, he worked downtown somewhere, and he was taking down signs and stuff. And got fired.
So for those of you that don't live in the city of Philadelphia, there was an individual who was taking Black Lives Matter signs down in South Philadelphia.
And said black signs don't matter.
He was pulling the signs down. A person was riding by, and they shouted Black Lives Matter, and that man responded and said, "Not to me." Now, this gentleman was a 59-year-old white male, and the internet ended up searching, and they tracked him down, and he was a supervisor in the courts, the Philadelphia courthouse. Well, he no longer is a supervisor. He lost his job, and that's what he deserves to get, because racism is not going to be tolerated. And just acts is not going to be tolerated. And I'm glad to see that people of all colors around the world, this isn't a state issue. This isn't a United States issue. This is a worldwide issue. I've seen people that are protesting all around the world, and I'm glad to see the unity and that they're really stepping up, because that's the only way that you're going to get change is all hands on deck. Everybody get involved. If you just have pieces here and pieces there, it's not a strong enough force. Like a plane needs to get to a certain velocity to be able to take off the ground. That's the same velocity that we as human beings need to have a lot of force and to be able to inflict change for everybody across the board.
Definitely bars. So you want go ahead. You want to talk about Zeke and the and the Cowboy players and the Texan players?
The Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, they had several players that tested positive for COVID-19. The biggest name out of the bunch was Ezekiel Elliott, who's a star running back for the Dallas Cowboys. There also were 6 players from the University of Houston that tested positive for COVID-19 as well, and the university immediately had to shut down their organized practices and things of that nature. So what do you see the long-term consequences, the long-term outlook, the pros and cons behind COVID-19? Because COVID-19 shut life down for everybody first, and then the social uproars took place second. So what do you foresee with that issue, Neef?
Man, I mean, I think it's kind of hard to tell right now. I mean, we see a lot of things opening up, and I think regardless of whatever, no matter what you do, I think cases are going to pop up. I think some cases are going to pop up possibly in Orlando where the NBA is going. I don't think it's something. That's another thing. I don't think that's really, really going away. I don't know if that should stop. I'm on the fence about if it should we not have an NFL season now because of this situation. I'm not really sure. I think I'm interested in seeing the steps they take as the time comes closer, or like the NBA has. Like going with this bubble thing where you can't even leave the area that they're going to be in Orlando for 2.5 months. I'm interested in seeing is what the NFL actual breakdown is going to be. Are there going to be games like at the link, or are they going to go to one? Well, that's going to be hard to do because it's on Sundays. So you're going to man.
Let me ask you this: do you see COVID-19 going away anytime soon, Neef? Honestly,
I don't think. I think the numbers are dropped, but I think it's something that's going to be. You're going to still see cases. I don't think it's going to be, one day, you know what? Remember when COVID-19? I think it's going to be something that is always going to pop up, and not at the numbers. We see numbers now spiking up. So in different places.
Well, over in China, Beijing, they're dealing with round 2 of the coronavirus now. They had to shut schools back down. And I think the same thing is going to happen here in the United States as well.
We're moving too fast.
So some people are excited to get back out and about and interact and have some normalcy in their life and things of that nature. But is your life worth sacrificing? And then from a social distancing standpoint, you can't social distance and play football.
Right.
That's not possible. Because when you're playing football, you have 11 players that's on offense, and you have 11 players playing defense on the other side of the ball. They're in close contact with each other every single play. That's just how football is. So for those of you that may not be avid sports fans, or might not be that knowledgeable about football, when a football play is being ran, you have about 7 players, sometimes 8. That's all lined up together side by side, and they have to block. And then you have about 5 or 6 players on the other side of the ball, and they're trying to get past those as blocking. So it's going to be constant interaction. I don't see COVID-19 going away. I think the NFL is going to have to rethink some things seriously and think about health of the players. Tracy McGrady, I seen yesterday, he was interviewed, and they asked him, if you were still playing in the NBA and they were talking about returning, would you play? And T-Mac said no. He said the reason he wouldn't play is because of COVID-19, because of health.
Right.
He said he has a friend that lives in New York who lost 12 or 16 family members to COVID-19. So, some people out here, they think it's a game. They believe in all the conspiracy theories. And they don't want to buy into what's being presented. Do I agree with everything that's being broadcasted across the news outlets? No. Do I believe all the information? Absolutely not. But I know that a virus do really exist. I personally know people that passed as a direct result of COVID-19. So you have to think about health first. I mean, if your star players start dropping like flies and dying, what does that say about the brand?
Right. Oh, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be a crazy situation for that to happen. And, sometimes it takes that for people sometimes. They're so concerned. And don't get me wrong, dog, I want football, dog. I want normalcy. Like, I haven't been to work since March. And my job keep pushing back. They want to be safe and they keep pushing it back. And, you want to go back to some regular, whatever regular is going to be, because I don't think what regular was is going to be what we deal with coming out of this.
Yeah, things have changed.
Right. So it's just like, we all want it. I mean, I love to have my Sundays and watch football. I love it. I've been doing it since I was a kid. But the same token, like you're saying, I definitely think, there's some things they got to talk about. They seem very determined. It don't seem like there's any question of, are we going to go back? It's like, this is what we're doing.
Right.
As far as the NFL.
That's about that dollar, man. Because they're thinking from a business standpoint, and they're thinking about how much money they could lose. Even college football. I think I saw that college football will lose like $3 billion if college football is not played this upcoming season. And I know that a lot of people that are not interested in sports, they kind of thumb their nose at football and thumb their nose at sports. But what they fail to realize is college football funds the other programs at the universities.
Right.
So if it wasn't for college football and all that it brings with it, other programs that you get would not even exist. So one hand pretty much washes the other. So people just really need to take that into consideration before they have these biases and these outlandish opinions about football as a whole.
True.
So moving on. Colin Kaepernick, his name was finally mentioned by NFL NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell did make an apology to the NFL players for not standing by their side when peaceful protests initially started back in 2016. The NFL was owning up that they handled things incorrectly. So now the NFL made a statement that they're against racial injustice and police brutality and things of that nature. But when they initially came out with that message, Colin Kaepernick's name wasn't mentioned. So some people felt that apology and that message was disingenuous because Kaepernick He tried to lead, Kaepernick led the charge with this subject matter back in 2016, but people chose not to listen. And because they weren't listening, they didn't even get the message clearly. So you have people that took the message as disrespecting the flag, disrespecting veterans, disrespecting soldiers, etc. That was never the message. And I do like that, this past week, J.J. Watt, Baker Mayfield, they're two white football players. They both voiced their opinion, and they said that the protest was never about kneeling, and it was never about disrespecting soldiers. It has nothing to do with that. Right. And if the entire world would have gotten that message back in 2016, things would have changed the way things played out. And we could have been proactive and made forward progress with these subject matters years sooner. Maybe George Floyd wouldn't have been killed.
You think so, G? Because, I mean, even after George Floyd, we see what happened in Atlanta. You get what I'm saying? And, like, I feel you. Like, the NFL should have acknowledged it, definitely. But I don't know if what was happening as far as with black people and the police changes that much. I think it's something else that's going to happen. We got people, we got how many bodies popped up? And I know this is a sports podcast, but we got to keep it real, right? How many bodies just popped up
from hangings?
Last week hung, right?
6.
After George Floyd.
It was just another one yesterday in Houston, Texas.
Right. So this isn't stopping. Now, as far as the NFL, to me, it's like, I think I need a little more. Everybody, after Drew Brees, you'd be dumb to say anything else anyway. So, I mean, some people going to say the right thing. Now, J.J. Watt is one guy who I believe, he's always just, in his whole career, stepped up. He stepped up in Houston big.
He's always been an activist. When the hurricanes happen and stuff like that down in Louisiana and Houston, he raised millions of dollars for relief, and he's been an activist for years. So he's a person that actions that he's not just a talker, but he gets stuff done. So he's on the ground fighting. As
far as now, we got the players speaking up, we got the commissioner, but I ain't hearing no owners. You know what I'm saying? And let's not just start with that. Let's start with the fact that and y'all chain of command as far as who work for y'all, how many black men or black people or women are involved. That shows me something too, because you can sit back here and say all the right things, but we still got qualified black people and women who could hold some of these jobs that are not getting interviewed. It's a damn shame we got to sit back here and offer better draft picks to get somebody black in there. So I mean, we could talk about it all day, but y'all actions need to step up.
Right, I agree. So I'm gonna ask you questions. I just want your initial thoughts on it. So does racism exist in the NFL?
Yes.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, Vic Fangio is the head coach of the Denver Broncos. They asked him that same question, and he said no. He said that it didn't. But his viewpoint, he just was thinking about the locker room and the camaraderie amongst the players and the coaches, and he left it at that. And when people heard that response, they thought, like, are you out of your mind? Anybody with a brain knows that racism exists in the NFL. So I want you to take it a step farther, Neef, and I want you just to elaborate on other layers of racism within the NFL, because you was already starting to touch on it. So I want you to take that a bit farther. Go ahead.
I believe it's players in the locker room, but they're smart enough to know not to speak on it for the simple fact that 80% of the room is black. I believe that. I believe there's a lot of people who feel like what Drew Brees first said. I believe that. But like we say, when you got to put in what is the Rooney Rule?
Yes.
Right. Why do you have to implement that? If that man is the best man for the job, he should get it. It's guys who, in this league, who deserve, in sports in general. Why hasn't Mark Jackson got another job? Why hasn't it's out there? It's definitely in the NFL. It's definitely in the NFL. How many black?
Just quick correction: Mark Jackson is the NBA, but I understand your point.
Right. It's black coaches that deserve jobs that you got. Where they pulling these coaches out of these places? I never heard of some of these guys who don't put in no time. But then you got Ken Norton Jr. who never got another chance, and Ken Norton Jr. has been a linebacker coach or a defensive coach for some of the best defenses we've seen in the last couple years.
The last 20 years.
Right.
So,
All you see, what you got? Mike Tomlin. You got Mike Tomlin as a head coach.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me throw a name out there for you real quick to go along with what you're saying. Cliff Kingsbury. He's the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
His resume did not substantiate him getting a head coaching job. He was a college football coach at Texas Tech, and his record wasn't good. But because Patrick Mahomes, who's arguably the best football player in the NFL, he just led his team to the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes came from Cliff Kingsbury's program, so that moved him up the charts and ended up getting him a job, but he didn't do a good job as a head coach. But that goes to what you're saying, where it's not an even playing field. You have people that are better, are more qualified to get jobs, but you have less qualified individuals superseding them and getting a chance. And it's not fair at all. But go ahead. You were starting to name some of the black coaches.
Right. Why doesn't Deuce Staley have a job somewhere as something more than – isn't he just a running back coach still?
He is. He is still the running backs coach. For our listeners that aren't football gurus, Deuce Staley is a former NFL player. He played running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think he might have played a later year of the Steelers, but he's been a position coach for years. But he's paid his dues. And based on his resume and the results that he's gotten, he should have been promoted. He should have gotten a bigger position by now.
Or another team go hire him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we might have, and I don't have their names right, and G, you can help me with it because I know you're more experienced. We got my man with the Chargers.
Anthony Lynn.
Right. Then we got the coach in Miami.
Brian Flores.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm. As far as head coaches?
Right.
Mike Tomlin.
Right. I said Mike Tomlin before though when we first started. And
that might be it because
they might give us Rivera. They try to throw Rivera in there because he's not actually white, but he's not a black man. You know what I'm saying? And if the league is 80% black, why not have a black man who can relate to them? That makes more sense to me, and that might seem crazy, but I don't know if the coach in Denver, if you don't know this is going on, you don't need to be the head coach. And I'm concerned. Right. Because if you and it might not be in the locker room, but it's more to an NFL team than the players and the coaches or the players interacting with each other. Because
you started mentioning the front office. Why aren't there more front office personnel that are black in sports? Not just the NFL, in sports, period. Right. So I'm a backtrack for you. I'm a backtrack and dig into this racism thing because black men were not allowed to be quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time. With black
Charlie Ward should have been an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. So what black players were forced to do was change your position. So even if you played quarterback in football in college, if you happen to get drafted and make the NFL, they would make black players change and play another position because the thinking, it was a stereotype and a bias against black men. They didn't think that black men were smart enough to play quarterback. This is the nonsense that some idiots in the past came up with, which was not true, by the way. So the first black quarterback was in the 70s, and he played for the Denver Broncos. I don't remember his name. And then the 80s hit. And they slowly gave a couple more people opportunities. Doug Williams, the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Doug Williams did that. He came out of Grambling University, HBCU. He played for the Washington Redskins and led them to the Super Bowl in 1987, I believe it was. And then you had the 90s. Off the top of your head, I just want to know, how many black quarterbacks do you remember from the 90s, Neef?
Well, Warren Moon, who didn't get drafted and had to go to he went to the Canadian Football
USFL.
League? Right, and bald. Randall Cunningham.
Okay.
You asked me on the spot right now.
Rodney Peete.
Rodney Peete, bum ass Rodney Peete. Bum ass Rodney Peete. It was very limited.
Steve McNair.
Right, but that was what? That was late 90s?
No,
McNair, like 97, 96?
McNair was drafted in 94.
Was he?
Yeah, he came in 94, 95. He came in in the mid-90s.
Okay.
And then in the back end of that decade, then you had Dante Culpepper, Donovan McNabb. But the point is it's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough because
now they're trying to recognize. It took for really Now you're going to see it more. Lamar Jackson really opened up a lot of that, and they tried to say that he couldn't play quarterback coming into the draft. And look at the quarterbacks they got drafted before him, and he's the cream of that crop right now. And I think that's going to open up some eyes. And as quick as they are to jump on Lawrence, and I think Lawrence is going to be great. Don't get me wrong, from Clemson, the quarterback from here, he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. Whoever gets him is going to be a lucky squad. The black quarterback always have to prove themselves, no matter what comes before. Lamar Jackson opened up the door, but the next one that fails, if the next one that fails, they're going to say, "See, we can't do it. We can't."
They'll put him in a category like Jamarcus Russell, because Jamarcus Russell was the number one pick and he was a bust.
Right.
But we're transitioning to this subject topic is the rise of the black quarterback is what we're touching on.
Right.
And right now there's eight starting quarterbacks in the NFL that are black. But if you went and got expert opinion and said, name the top 5 quarterbacks right now, 4 of those 5 are going to be black, if not all 5.
If I'm starting my franchise, Russell Wilson, definitely. Patrick Mahomes, we all know. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott was the top of my Kyler Murray. Gonna be a beast.
Exactly. So the last 2 NFL seasons that have been completed, the MVP of the league were black quarterbacks. Right. Patrick Mahomes first, and then Lamar Jackson this year. And the guys that were runner-ups, Russell Wilson was right there in the mix, also a black quarterback. Deshaun Watson wasn't next, but he was in the mix as well and given consideration. So,
go ahead, Jimmy.
So look at the way these guys are performing currently. Who's to say they couldn't have been doing it? Black quarterbacks couldn't have been doing this a long time ago if they were given a chance.
But see, you know what, too? It's these old white men, it's offensive coordinators and stuff who stuck in their ways and, this is how the NFL offense should be run. And this is how things should get done. And some people are starting to smarten up. And that's why I think you are bringing these young coaches in, white or black, who understand that, we got to play to his strengths. Lamar Jackson, you got to play to his strengths. You get what I'm saying? That's what you got to do. That's why Michael Vick didn't work. Imagine if you'd have played to Michael Vick's strengths as much as you could have.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if Michael Vick in his prime was able to play in today's NFL? How open it is?
My only issue with Mike was I think Mike depended too much on his physical ability and that being enough. I feel like with these young guys, I think Lamar Jackson knows he has the physical ability, but knows he needs to be in that book, know he needs to get better as a passer. And we've seen that from the first year to the second year, and all I see is that improving. I feel like Mike Vick might not have been as focused on – I think Mike Vick has even admitted that.
So I'm not holding Vic accountable to his failures and his weaknesses. Right. What I'm saying is if Mike Vick was able to play in today's NFL, he will be coached differently, Neef.
Yeah, right.
So you just mentioned that the coaches are changing and understanding to play to the strength of the player.
Right.
So now if somebody took Mike Vick and they cultivated him and built around his skill sets and his strengths, then they could have coached him up and got him to develop and become a better passer and to scan the field and pick up blitzes and things of that nature. His running ability was natural, so they didn't need to work on that. He already had that. But if he was playing in this era, it wouldn't be as much of a tug of war or a struggle, because it was that stigma that just black quarterbacks, they just want to run. So if Michael Vick played in this current era, he would have been able to get taught better and develop better. And I think he would the sky would have been the limit. I mean, he would have sort of league up just like the other guys are doing.
The thing with Lamar is if Lamar is really going into this season, it's going to be a lot of eyes on him, because I feel like because he's more of a running quarterback like a Vic than the other guys that we've mentioned. There's going to be eyes on him to see if this style really works, because they're so determined to go away from it again. You know what I'm saying?
Can't.
Right, but I'm just saying
they can't. Lamar Jackson threw 36 touchdown passes last year.
Right,
and he threw for a decent amount of yards, so it wasn't a gimmick. Football 101 is if you want to win in football, run the ball successfully when you're on offense and you control the clock and move the chains, and you have a dominant defense that shuts the opponent down from doing what they want to do. Baltimore has those formulas, but they had Weapon X, which is Lamar Jackson. That means it's just certain stuff that's going to happen that you can't script it. The off-script plays, when a play breaks down, what happens now? Right. And they arguably have the best person in the entire league, that when the play breaks down, this is what's going to take place.
And the biggest difference between Lamar Jackson and the Mike Vick is you don't see Lamar Jackson take them big hits. You don't see him take the Cam. Well, because I'm thinking about size-wise, Mike Vick is more of a size-wise, body-wise to Lamar Jackson. Lamar might be a little bigger. You don't see Lamar take those hits when he run. He know how to get down and he protects himself. We haven't seen
coaching.
That. Right.
That's coaching. So that's why I'm saying if Mike Vick was playing in this era, it would be completely different. But moving on to our next subject matter, but in a similar vein, should Colin Kaepernick play? Should he return? And do you think that would happen? So should Colin Kaepernick return to the NFL? And do you think it actually will take place?
No, I don't think he should. I feel like regardless, I think it's rigged for him to lose, honestly. At the age of 32 years old, haven't played for 3 years, you can be in the best shape of your life, but that football shape is another situation. Right. And then we have Cam, and it's just like the pressure to be on. See, I told you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the first time you have a bad game, the first time you throw 3 picks, that's the reason why we didn't bring. It wasn't that. It was. So I feel like he's doomed. He's doomed to. That's not. They go into the whole thing. If he's not starting, if he's the backup, the cameras that's going to come with. They're going to all the reasons that they're saying on TV that he shouldn't come back. Well, I think he's just going to be under a microscope that's too large. Is it microscope? I think it's microscope too large, right? Or too small.
No, you said it correctly.
Microscope too large, and he's not. If he come in and win a Super Bowl, is the only way.
So is it safe to say you feel like it will be too many unfair biases against him that he shouldn't come back?
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like if he don't necessarily, if he goes to, people say the Jaguars, and if the Jaguars are 6-10, it wasn't a big deal. A big deal to bring him back, or that wasn't the reason. All this stuff that they're saying is the reason why he's not in the league. That's not why. It's his skill set.
Okay.
Honestly, now I've said on other places that I wouldn't going into the season for my team. Would I want Colin Kaepernick to be my starting quarterback? I wouldn't, because of.
To bring it to your attention, Anthony Lynn, the coach of the Chargers, said that Colin Kaepernick would be perfect for the system that the Chargers want to run, and that they have him on a short list of emergency tryouts,
right?
Of bringing him in. But the flip side of that coin, and I mentioned this to somebody, I said, well, what if Colin Kaepernick moved on from the NFL and he doesn't have a desire to play anymore?
Right.
We the people can't force him to play. And if he doesn't have any desire to play, I know a lot of people, they feel like, well, I'm not watching the NFL unless they give Colin Kaepernick a job. Well, what if Kaepernick doesn't want a job anymore?
Didn't you not watch for a year?
Yeah, you could bring that up to the people. So when Colin Kaepernick protested and the NFL blackballed him and gave him backlash, I did stop watching the NFL. Now, Neef and I, we've been playing fantasy football for years. I first started playing fantasy football back in 2006. Neef ran his own fantasy football leagues, and I played in his league as well. And I said, Neef, I'm not playing this year. And he said, why? I said, because of the Colin Kaepernick situation.
He definitely did.
I don't like what they did. They're blackballing him, and I'm standing with them. But if Cap doesn't want to play anymore, then who are we to sit there and make our choice based off of his choice not wanting to play? That kind of doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. So I know some people were upset with Kaepernick. They liked the fact that he protested. They liked the attention that he brought to all those different issues. But then it was a dead period where you didn't hear anything from Kaepernick. And I know people were feeling like, well, what's next? What do we do next? And because he didn't say anything, the same people that were cheering him on ended up hating him, and they flipped the script on him. So it's funny how you could be loved today and hated tomorrow. That's just the way of the world, I guess.
Life is bigger than football, and if his life is taking him to where social injustice and the moves he's making, forget football. Go ahead and do your thing, brother. It's short-lived anyway. The career, it's like what he does and first of all, his influence, what the last 4 years have been and what he's given, just being quiet and just this conversation continuing to go on. is more than he could ever do on a football field.
Right.
It outweighs it.
So just moving on and changing subjects. Let's talk about LeBron James.
Right.
LeBron James and his social activism, things he's done off the court have been phenomenal, to say the least. LeBron's been the token role model for a sport superstar. Do you think he's the GOAT of activism when it comes to professional athletes, and also taking into account his off the field achievements as well?
First off, let me start off by saying I have killed LeBron James plenty of times as far as an athlete.
Okay.
In the locker room, I feel like he don't got the killer instinct, and I'm a Laker fan, so I've always rooted against LeBron. I'm not one of them guys who I'm a Laker. So if you're a Laker, I love you now, but in his career, but prior to that, I always grinded him up. I respected his game, but I always grinded him up, that loss in Dallas, him leaving Cleveland and going to Miami. And, I always grinded him up. But that man is definitely, without a doubt, the MFing GOAT as far as off the court. He is that. He the first one to speak. He's not scared of losing anything. People go into this, they go into Michael Jordan and what Michael Jordan could have did. And I believe Michael Jordan was kind of neutral. Tiger Woods, the biggest stars in the world, don't do what LeBron does or step up like LeBron does. LeBron puts his money where his mouth is. He don't just talk about it. He's all action. Even with leading, LeBron don't need this NBA check. If LeBron say I don't want to play and I shouldn't play, he got enough money and he makes enough money in other places. He don't need to play this summer in Orlando. He don't need to. You know what I'm saying?
So you think that he is the greatest off the court? The greatest
period.
Off the court.
Utmost respect. As a man, as a husband, as a father, from what I see, he's the GOAT. Point blank, period.
And what are you most impressed by that he's achieved off the court? Like, what are some of the things that stand out to you most?
And in a time where as though that microscope is on you, he hasn't ran from it, and he hasn't put himself in any situations to, when you're that vocal, they're going out their way to find something wrong. He's not as perfect as he comes across. There has to be there's something in this. There's something somewhere. It's a bag of bones in the closet somewhere with LeBron, and it hasn't showed. And he steps up, and he's not worried about. He don't let his brand and he doesn't worry about losing or that being jeopardized by what he says. And he goes with his heart and says what he says, and he represents young black men very well.
So some of the things that stand out to me about what LeBron's done off the court is the fact that he took his high school buddies, his high school friends, and he put them on. So you had Maverick Carter is a household name now. They started their own sports agency. He put his people on and in positions to succeed. Now, you've seen athletes in the past, they wanted to take the hood with them because now they achieved fame and they had boatloads of money, but they just had people that were leeching off of them, and they weren't helping propel them to the next level. Well, LeBron did it the right way. He set the bar for his friends, and they stepped up and they accepted the challenge. And now these guys are involved in business as well. I can't remember the names of his other friends, but these guys are doing some big time things, and he set the table for them to be able to do that. LeBron opened up his own school, and the kids are receiving a higher quality of education, a higher level quality of education now than they would get from public schooling. His school is doing phenomenal things. The kids are reading at grade levels well ahead of where they're currently at. We've never heard about LeBron being in trouble off the court. We never heard about any misdealings with him being a whoremonger and cheating on his wife and things of that nature. He's been the token citizen. And he's been a philanthropist. He's given back. He's doing things in Akron, where he's from. He's a social activist. There's a young lady that was shot and killed in Akron on Sunday. I can't remember her name right now, but I saw on social media people were saying that it's starting to silence. Like there's not a lot of conversation about her anymore. Like, time is moving on. And LeBron said, no, we're going to keep it going. He said that himself. And then he reposted some information about that subject matter. Now, when we first discussed this possible topic, my initial thoughts is Muhammad Ali is the GOAT as far as activism and off the court. Because Muhammad Ali gave up his livelihood and he was willing to sacrifice it all. And LeBron, he's never had to do that. So, and in my opinion, I would say they're 1A and 1B. I would say Ali is 1A because Ali was willing to go to jail for what he believed in because he lived in a different time and a different era. He lost his career as a boxer. He lost his championship belts as the heavyweight champion.
Years of his prime.
That was years in his prime. Your prime years when you're an athlete means those are the years that you're going to maximize your ability. And he had those things stripped away from him and taken away. But he was willing to give that stuff up for what he believed in. So I definitely think Muhammad Ali will always probably be viewed as number one as far as a sports social activist. But LeBron James is not far behind. He's hot on his tails because LeBron's been holding it down. He's been doing his community proud. He's been doing his culture, his race proud with the way that he's carried himself. Now, I know you have LeBron detractors who have issue with basketball matters with him. But as far as off the court, there's nothing that you can complain about.
Whoa. I got one LeBron issue. LeBron, go get a baldy, bro. That hair is done, bro. That thing looking crazy off the top. Especially all these cameras, they got too many different views of that thing, man. You gotta get this. Come on, bro. Go get that baldy. You got a beard. Everybody knows a beard. You can rock a baldy with a beard, be straight. Go ahead and cut it off, Brian. So what else we got?
We're going to stay on our basketball topic, and we're going to get to our better player segment. So this week, we have on the list, better player, Hall of Fame champion, Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Fame champion, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Right.
So I'm going to let you start it off, Neve. Go ahead and kick
I'm going to tell y'all who he got already. He got Hakeem Olajuwon. I know this for a fact. And what I would like to say is, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Because if you seen Shaq, first of all, Hakeem Olajuwon is, man, listen, footwork, man, a beast, defensive player, total package. But Shaquille O'Neal dominated. Now, if you're going to go to stats, we can talk about the fact that Shaq got 4 rings and Hakeem got 2. Or we could talk about 3 All-Star MVPs from Shaq. We could talk about 19 Player of the Weeks from Shaq. Career high 31. His career high is 61 in the game ever. Career high rebounds is 28. Just something light. Career averages 24 points, 10 rebounds, and just entertaining too. That's one thing he definitely has over Hakeem. Hakeem ball, but you put a microphone in front of Hakeem, he ain't giving you no great quotes or anything like that. Shaq
he's not from the United States. How can he?
Listen, bro, Embiid ain't from the United States, but Embiid give you that.
You can't understand half the things Joel Embiid say when he talk in front of that camera.
But he's funny, so
he is.
I take Shaq. Who you got, G?
So you got Shaq?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm just going to give resume is what I'm going to do to kick it off. You try to jump the gun.
You try hit you before you hit me. You're not gonna hit me like last week.
Well, here's Hakeem Olajuwon's resume. His career, he averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 assists, almost 2 steals and 3 blocks a game for his career. He's won an NBA Finals MVP twice. He won league MVP once. He's the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He has 2 rings. He led the league in blocks 3 times and rebounds twice. He's a 12-time All-Star, 12-time All-NBA player, and a 9-time All-Defensive Team member. Now, Shaq and Olajuwon, they got to go head-to-head in the 1995 NBA Finals. And the Olajuwon team swept Shaq's Orlando Magic 4 games to 0. Yeah. And in that series, Olajuwon averaged 33 points, 11.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. And he won MVP of that series. Other important thing to point out for Hakeem Olajuwon, he is the only player in NBA history to win league MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP all in the same season. Nobody else in history ever did that but Hakeem.
That's a bar. That's
another
a bar.
thing. Hakeem is the only player in history that once he retired, he is in the top 10 all time in scoring, rebounding, blocks, and steals. Now I'm gonna give you Shaq's resume because I don't want to linger on too much. Shaq got a hell of a resume also. Career, Shaq averaged 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2.3 blocks a game. Shaq is a 4-time NBA champion. He's a 1-time league MVP. He 3 times is on the all-defensive team. He's a 14-time all-NBA member, 15-time all-star, 2-time scoring champion. And that same NBA Finals matchup against Olajuwon in 95, Shaq averaged 28 points, 12.5 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 2.5 blocks. So, you hear a lot of people that say, oh, Olajuwon killed Shaq in the finals. No, he didn't.
Nick Anderson hit them free throws.
He outplayed Shaq, but he didn't kill him because you just hear the numbers that I gave you. Shaq held it down, but Shaq team didn't hold it down.
Nick Anderson missed them free throws, and they was out of it the whole rest of the way.
It's a team game, but for their career in the playoffs, I think they played 8 games. So either 8 or 12. So he might have faced each other 2 or 3 times in the playoffs. So for their career head-to-head in the playoffs, Shaq averaged 29 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks against Hakeem head-to-head in their career. And then Olajuwon averaged 23 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 steals, and 1.4 blocks. So from the numbers, Shaq dominated. Right. Shaq dominated Olajuwon if you just look at the resume and the numbers. But the difference is that Olajuwon is a monster offensively and a monster defensively as well.
Can you imagine Olajuwon in the league right now?
It wouldn't be fair.
Olajuwon would kill.
This is so hard. It's hard to pick one over the other.
You can't lose picking one. Like either way you go, you gotta respect it. You might have a somebody you prefer, but you can't. Oh no, there's no way. Come on, Hakeem dominate. Ask David Robinson about Hakeem. You know what I mean? Like
right,
Hakeem ain't no joke.
It's hard to pick, but Shaq is better. Shaq was better offensively. He was more dominant. Now, he didn't have a better skill set. We know that Hakeem had the better skill set. Right. But as far as offensive dominant, Shaq was more dominant because he overpowered people. But defensively is not even close, man. On defense, Olajuwon was ridiculous, man. That dude averaged over 4 blocks a game for a whole season. Like, that's crazy. The thing for me is, who is Shaq's 2 best teammates he ever played with?
Well, Kobe Bean Bryant is
and
one.
Who else? Okay, and who else?
Dwayne Wade.
Okay, who are Hakeem Olajuwon's 2 best teammates that he played with, and they were in their prime?
Nah, he played with an old ass Clyde Drexler.
No, so I'm gonna ask you again. His 2 best players he played with, and they were in their prime.
Ralph Sampson, early.
I guess, but the point is, you see how your answer rolled right off your tongue for Shaq. Right. We know it's Kobe and it's D Wade. You didn't have that with Olajuwon.
Right.
So Olajuwon played with some other Hall of Famers, but it was way past their prime. He got an old, broken down Charles Barkley on the downside of his career. He got Clyde Drexler at the end of his career.
Scottie Pippen.
He got Scottie Pippen after the Bulls run.
Right.
So, like, his best complimentary players, he had Kenny Smith. He had Vernon Maxwell. He had Robert Horry, Otis Stewart.
Sam Cassell.
Yeah, that was the best players.
It was a team. With. They had a team that was a very solid role players who knew their role and knew this Hakeem team, and y'all just do what y'all supposed to do and you gonna win.
Right. So if Olajuwon had a Kobe Bryant on his team or Dwayne Wade, what do you think things would look like then?
Yeah, sure. He probably would have had more than 2 chips.
Yeah, it would have been nasty. It could have been even crazier. So I really want to say it's a tie, to be honest, but I don't think we could do we do ties on here, bro?
That's fine. As long as we talked about it, that's all that matters.
They're 1A and 1B. You can't go wrong on either side. They both are two phenomenal basketball players, so it's just too hard for me to pick one over the other. They're at the same level for me.
AG, let's jump into this Reggie Bush reinstated to USC.
Go ahead.
Situation. You probably get spit more about it than me. He was banned for his family receiving money.
Yeah, and improper benefits and lack of institutional control is what they were accused of. So for those of you that might not be familiar with what that means, improper benefits means like college players, college athletes, they're not supposed to get paid. They're not supposed to receive gifts and cars. And,
well, they should. Well, not like that, but
nature.
They should get paid, but they're changing that now.
Yeah, so those are the rules for college athletes. And after doing years of research and dirt digging, they've revealed that Reggie Bush and his family received improper benefits and things of that nature. So they banned Reggie Bush from being affiliated with USC, University of Southern California. They took his Heisman Trophy. I think they probably removed his statistics from 2003 to 2005 when he was there and dominated.
Right.
But now they lifted the ban and he's been reinstated after a 10-year hiatus. So what's your thoughts on that, Neef?
And didn't they talk about giving him his Heisman back? They haven't yet,
they should.
Right.
How do you feel that he was banned in the first place?
I think there's some responsibility. I think they're the fall guys even when you talk about it's still college, but the Fab Five and how that stuff played out. If you can't catch it seems corny because now they're trying to. You got to get these kids. These kids is making these universities so much money, so much millions and millions of dollars, and are struggling. And just especially with football, you got to at least do 3 years in college. It's not even like NBA. Like college basketball, you do 1 year and you can go to the league after that. Reggie Bush was good enough the first year at USC to go to the league, but had to play 2 more years. So not only can you not leave, we're going to keep you for 2 more years and make all this money off of you. We done made this money off of you, and now everybody washed their hands. He had to get the money from somebody where the money came from.
Can I tell you how I feel about it?
Yeah, of course you can.
I think it's a big crock of BS. That's what I think. It's BS. But players been getting paid under the table with college athletics for forever. And anybody that think that they don't, you're stupid and you're delusional.
And one way or the other,
they get paid. Players get paid. I don't care what nobody's talking about. But the players are the ones that bring the money to the university in the first place. Those stadiums wouldn't be getting filled without the players. If the players did not exist, then no tickets would be sold and no fans would show up. So why should the player get paid? Why should they be compensated?
And like you said, other areas of the school get. It's not like the money, right? Exactly. So these Reggie Bush coming to USC brings the whole campus, the whole college money, and he's the only one not getting a piece of the pie.
Yeah, I think it's BS. Me personally, I don't care if their parents get a car. I don't care, because if that family didn't bring their son or their daughter or that player to that university, then that university wouldn't get the spotlight that they're getting. They wouldn't. Their school wouldn't be on ESPN for Game of the Week. If it's football, they wouldn't be on ABC for Game of the Week. Like it's such a crock of bullcrap, man. It really is. It's the double standard, and the NCAA has been robbing athletes, white and black, for decades. Because the university is profiting greatly. They're profiting off of these college games, basketball, the NCAA tournament, football, the bowl games, all that stuff. The athlete is the one that's generating that stuff. What difference do it make that their family received a benefit from it? I think it's BS. They need to rewrite those laws and throw the old ones in the trash.
Well, they are changing that. They are changing that, aren't they? Aren't they changing well, they're saying what years to do that start when they supposed to start getting paid, or players can get paid for?
Well, they could get paid for their likeness. So that means like if
video games,
a jersey, that's their likeness. Video games, that's their likeness. But it's just BS, man. The NCAA has been pimping, prostituting college athletes for years. They use them up and they throw them away, because all these guys and girls, they're not making it professionally. So they lay it all on the line. They might take steroids. They get shot up with pain medicine so they can play through injuries. It's just ridiculous, man.
And then the first time you say you don't want to play no more, they go to scholarship.
Right, because they hold that leverage over their head. I want you and our listeners, if y'all not familiar with it, there's a book that was written called $40 Million Slaves. Check it out. Because they're referring to professional athletes, and that money is that carrot that's being dangled. But it's bigger than sports. At the end of the day, you got to really look at the full picture and what the long-term outcome is of things at the end of the day. But real quick, folks, if y'all want to find me, you can find me at gperry 215 on Instagram. You can find me at gperry 215 on Twitter, and on Facebook. Granville Goldsmith is where you can find me at. Neef, let the folks know where they can find you and where they can listen to us at on other outlets.
Well, first of all, if you're on Twitter, NT Sports Blitz Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, I'm Hanif Wilkins Castle. That's a lot. But put HANEEF Wilkins and Castle. We got the YouTube thing. NT Sports Blitz Podcast on YouTube and on Spotify and any major platform where you listen to podcasts. You can find us at NT Sports N.T. Sports Blitz Podcast.
Blitz is spelled BLITZ is how we have Blitz spelled.
You know how we do it in the ghetto, man. Stop playing. We put a Z on it. Ain't no S's out here.
We out the ghetto, but we like the way it was spelled. So if you don't like it, that's too bad. We don't care. But so we thank with a Z. We want to thank all our supporters, all our listeners for chiming in. This is only episode number 2 for NT Sports Blitz. We're going to keep bringing you great content. If you have any feedback, any questions, or thoughts, definitely write them in the comments on YouTube or any of our other outlets that you can hear us on, and keep listening in and spread the word that you have a great show with great content that's worth checking out. So we appreciate y'all chiming in.
All right,
we'll see y'all next week.
Hey, happy Father's Day. All right, cuz.
Out.
All right.